All right, welcome back to a Sunday edition of Seminole Sidelines. As I am Pat Burnham, I'm joined by Curt Weiler, Bob Ferrante, and Mark Salva to talk about FSU's 6-0 start, now ranked fourth in the polls, both polls, and even third in another, uh, uh, after a 41-3 win over Syracuse. Special day in Tallahassee as Mark's 1993 national championship team was celebrated, the 30-year reunion. Sorry, Mark could not make it. We saw a lot of his old friends on Friday and Saturday night. We all look a little older, and most of us are rounder than we were the last time we saw each other. There's no doubt about that. Me and Steve Gilmer took a picture. We were roommates 30 years ago, and when Shane sent me the picture, I could not believe that Steve and I could now go out and apply for Santa Claus jobs like in December. So, but we've all changed. But anyway, it was great to see those guys. Great to spend some time with some guys I have not seen in a while. Mark, we wish you could have been here for that. It was a fun celebration that they had allowed the former players and staff members and all of their families to come back for. On Friday at the Moore Center, and of course, they topped it off. The Florida State football team played honor to them by winning 41-3 and placing a score on the scoreboard similar to what those guys did back in 1993 to bring it full circle. Bob and Curt, you guys were in the press box with me, but just want to start by getting your overall thoughts on the game. We'll get into a little bit more specifically offense and defense, but what your overriding thoughts were after you left the press box on Saturday night?
I thought the defense was really impressive. This is 7 straight quarters without a touchdown from the defense, not counting that special teams touchdown by Virginia Tech. So this is a really, really nice run. We've kind of dinged Adam Fuller and this defense as bend but don't break. I do think that's what college football is these days. You are bending a lot. You are trying to be really good in the red zone when those windows are tighter. You're trying to force takeaways. 11 straight games with a takeaway. It took to the very last play, essentially, to get that one. But, hey, overall, a really good, I thought, defensive showing overall when you're able to keep an opponent out of the end zone.
They had a strip sack, Bob.
They did. Yeah, I was thinking about Greedy's play.
And right. We'll get into that a little bit later, too.
That's right.
I got something I want to add about that. Curt?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Bob hit the nail on the head. I think on a day where the offense woke up and the offense left, had a bunch of yards and left some points out there in the first half. The defense, I mean, they're now, I mean, under 20 points per game they're allowing this season. I know it's not the end-all be-all in terms of stats, but they're allowing 18.3 points per game. It'd be their fewest since 2015. And I think, frankly, you look at the schedule and what's left, there aren't a ton of teams you're thinking are going to put up a ton of points. That's not maybe where they're going to get tested as much. So, it's that group is really rounded into form after. I mean, I think the further separated you get from BC, the more that looks like an anomaly and not something that BC was able to exploit or anything like that.
Yeah, it looks like a one-off for both those teams, for Florida State against Boston College and for Boston College against against Florida State.
But how good does that Virginia Tech win look right now?
Oh, it is. Hey, listen, don't Virginia Tech and Boston College play last week, or was that this week?
No, Virginia Tech won like 35-10 or something.
They destroyed Wake. They handily beat Wake. Wake benched the starting quarterback, and then their backup got hurt.
Yeah, and then Drones threw for like 330 yards, something like that.
We caught him a week before he hit his stride. All right. I like it. Yeah, and I guarantee you, Garrett Schrader goes crazy next week. Maybe that's going to be the theme the rest of the season. That
apparently had food poisoning.
Maybe we are good.
Yeah, but he was the only. Yeah, I heard that. But he was the only guy on the team that had it, which is weird because they usually all eat the same meals. I just wonder if he found his way down to College Town on Friday night.
Oh, no, we're not starting that. We're not starting that. We're not.
I think everybody knows I'm joking, Curt. I don't think anybody
that's how rumors get started, Pat.
That's how rumors get started. Started by the jealous people. Yes, that is true. That is true. All right, so listen, I know the defense was dominant. Listen, I think we've always, as Bob said, we've kind of picked – listen, I think we've been very judicial in our critiquing of this football program over the last 5 years. I don't think we're overreactionary. But yes, to Bob's point, we had when we found a sore point, it's been the defenses, particularly the secondary. And listen, 11 of 14 drives for Syracuse were 6 plays or less. We wanted to see these teams start dominating the teams they were supposed to start dominating, and that's what we've seen. On the other part, offense. Listen, I think we've got, and I'll ask Mark this question, and you guys can obviously, but we have such huge expectations for this team, particularly on offense, right? That it's almost every game they're not living up to our expectation. And Mark, from our perspective, I think sometimes when we watch Florida State play, any Florida State team play, we compare them to the Florida State teams that we were a part of.
And I think on some level we romanticize that.
Yes,
a little bit, right?
That's my point. Yeah, that's my point. I think sometimes we need to start comparing them to this year's Georgia team and this year's Michigan team and this year's Oregon team, and not 1993 Florida State team, not 1994, 95. Because listen, most teams in the history of college football would have a hard time living up to the expectations set by that team. But to your point, let's go to the offense now. And just well, first of all, before we go to the offense, who stood out to you guys defensively yesterday? And I know, Curt, you just started your second watch. I've got about 3.5 quarters in. But another guy that for the second week in a row that stuck out to me was Malcolm Ray. I really think that he is quickly becoming that third defensive tackle. I think Josh Farmer has definitively set himself as the starter in front of Fabian Lovett. We talked about that in the press box last night. Fabian's got to get on the field, or he's hurting his chances not only to play at Florida State, but in the NFL. We know he's been beat up since he's been here. But who stood out to you, Curt, on defense?
I'd probably have to go with the guy who's kind of picked as the defensive representative to break the rock, Shyheim Brown. I mean, I think he had a sack. He had another quarterback hit. He had 2 batted passes. He had quite a few stops against the run. I mean, he did it all. And whether he ever becomes Jamie Robinson, kind of we'll see. But you saw as close as he's been to being that Jamie clone who can do it all. I think he put that on display Saturday. It was quite impressive to see from him. A few other guys as well. I don't want to take them for the other guys, though. I can leave.
And we can always work our way back around.
Yeah.
Bob, you go next. We can't go through all 22 or 25 that played, but
I was going to say, it looked like DJ Lundy was pretty active. I think that's one guy who's been a standout. I think the coaching staff has really praised him throughout this season. Hey, the other note I think is really impressive. Obviously Patrick Payton had a couple of passes he knocked down at the line of scrimmage. There were 9 pass breakups against Syracuse. That's a season high, so that's kind of spread out among defensive linemen, DBs. I think that's a really big positive. I mean, obviously Syracuse's OL isn't keeping the hands down at the defensive line. Dino Babers did say, post-game, it's a really tall, athletic front. He just hasn't seen a front like that. So I think they really manhandled Syracuse's very inexperienced line. But you have to give Florida State credit for doing that job, I think.
Mark, who stood out to you on defense?
All right, so I'm going to go a different route here with this. Last year, we lose Fabian Lovett, and we lose 3 games, right? This year, third series, we rotate everybody. Omar Graham, Conrad Hussey, Byron Turner. Gilbert. We rotate a whole defense and not a drop-off, and we did that the whole game. Did it on offense too, just rotating guys, and there's no drop-off. And to me, I'm looking every time, and I'm like I'm got through a half of just kind of rewatching it, and I'm like going, it's a different group of guys just about every time, and we're still performing at a high level. Maybe think about just losing Fabian last year, and the whole thing fell apart. To me, for our ambition, our being Florida State, the ambition of this team to play deep into December and maybe get a 13th, 14th game. That bodes well for saving guys. I sit there thinking, if it all came down to the very end and we had put our very best in, who would we put? because the separation is getting thinner and thinner and thinner between those first and second team guys. I mean, yeah, Josh Farmer has separated himself. If Fabian Lovett picks it up, I mean, Dennis Briggs has his moments too.
Yep, there's
right? And I see Turner getting better.
Well, yeah, he had a play on a quarterback power, a quarterback draw, where he's getting upfield. He's got the tackle on his heels, and he's got his eyes up on the quarterback, see where he is, and he uses the offensive tackle's leverage to get himself back in position and makes the tackle. Now, the television people gave Fabian credit for the tackle,
right?
But it was certainly Turner. All Fabian did was follow both of them,
right? And then you think about Lundy. We talked about. Well, we have two linebackers in Tatum and Deloach, sorry. But now, with Lundy, I feel like he's right there with him. I think he's gotten that much better. And Omar Graham is going to be, early in the year, he made some, key errors and it kind of hurt us. But, I think that experience of having to make those mistakes has made him better and in turn made us better. So, the depth that we were building, especially on defense, is really impressive. And if we can keep winning games and being able to rotate personnel like we're doing, I mean, just as we get deeper in the year, that kind of stuff's not going to affect us. I mean, I'm watching the games yesterday of other teams, and they lose one or two guys, and it all kind of halfway falls apart, just like it would for us. We're getting to the point now where maybe not elite, maybe not like Georgia elite. Every guy steps on the field as an NFL draft pick at some point, but really, really good football players. And to me, that was the most impressive thing about what I saw, really on both sides of the ball, but especially on defense on Saturday.
The snap counts are on the website. I know in the front six, I guess not front seven, front six they normally play. I don't think anybody played more than Jared Versa. They get 37 snaps, and there wasn't the drop off. You're right. I mean, I think out of the 68 plays, Jared plays 37. Everyone else plays less than that. And you're right. You didn't notice a drop. I mean, even the freshman at the end of the game, kind of not letting him in the end zone, and Greedy comes through. Greedy's about the only veteran on the field at that point. It's pretty much all freshmen or redshirt freshmen besides Greedy, and they still get the stop.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we talk about it all the time when Florida State's a huge. We talked about it about Southern Miss and how important it is that one of the reasons you want to take control of the game early is because you want to get some of these young kids experience, because it is different in the games than it is in a practice. You can't.
There's the third series.
What's that?
Third series they're rolling them in.
Yep. Yeah. Well, now listen, and there's a trade-off for it too, right? Because in the start of that long drive that Syracuse had, most of the second teamers were in at the start of that drive, and Syracuse took advantage of that. So maybe they substitute a little early. But listen, the defense has come a long way since Boston College. I think we'll all say that. I mean, because you got to think that Syracuse, BC, and Virginia Tech are all about similar programs. Give BC the edge offensively because of the quarterback, right? Although I don't think he's got any better surrounding cast than the other two do. I think that we have seen growth on the defense, and we talked about this last night in the post-game show. Mike talks about it. We've talked about it. There's always continued development. You're not who you are at the beginning of the season. You progressively get better or progressively get worse in any given season. So let's talk about where you mentioned, Mark, that you could have somebody come out of the game and not see much drop off. Well, we didn't see Johnny Wilson in the game on offense, so we don't really know what's going on there. He was we didn't see him on the sidelines. I don't know where he was. He could have been anywhere, really.
He was tweeting during the game.
Okay, all right. So he was somewhere with his phone. We do know that.
He gave a shout out to Keon.
Okay.
On his catch.
And he should have.
Yeah.
Because if it's not for Conrad Hussey, we are talking about a guy having 300 all-purpose yards in a game.
Oh, man.
300 all-purpose yards, if not for that penalty. I think it was 247. The last time me and Curt were doing math in the press box, Keon was 247 total between punt return yardage and receiving yardage. So all-purpose yardage. But guys, listen, I don't think we ever felt like I don't think there was a moment in that game, unlike last week in BC, where I thought the game might not be in Florida State's control. This game, I don't care what the score was, it never seemed that Florida State was not in control, even to our standards when their offensive was not clicking on what we would consider all cylinders. But Bob, I'll start with you. So start with Curt on defense. What were your thoughts on the offense? Are expectations too high for this offense? And what did we see that we liked, and what did we see that we didn't like?
I think the expectations have become what they've set with this streak. I mean, we expect 30-plus points against everybody, regardless of whether this is a top 35 defense or not. And Syracuse was pretty highly regarded, even though –
And they were very good against the run.
Against the run, yeah.
And they've been hit pretty hard. I think they're not playing complementary football, right, Pat, to use your term?
That's right.
With Gadsden out, the offense isn't holding up its own in the bargain. The defense is out there just a ton. It's harder to stop people. You could be in a time of possession ball game, even though that wasn't the case on Saturday. Honestly, I thought Florida State's offense didn't have enough of an edge at certain times. I want to see a little bit more focus. Didn't like some of those drops, a couple of those precision passes, touch passes from Jordan just weren't exactly on the mark. I get it. He's a little dinged up. We can all acknowledge everybody's dinged up on the football field. I thought it was a really good performance overall to get to 41, but it felt like you left quite a bit out there is all I'm getting at. It might be an uncomfortable film watch on Sunday just because you kind of see the little mistakes. But overall, the end result, you can't really – I mean, shoot, you can't argue with 41 points, right?
Yeah, and listen, I will say this. Trey dropped 2 passes he should have called that Jordan – I can verify 2. I probably missed a lot, but I can verify 2 that I saw in the rewatch today. But, yeah, Curt, go ahead. What are your thoughts on offense?
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of summed it up in my column yesterday. I think the Florida State offense has a lot of exceptional pieces, from Keon Coleman to Jordan Travis to Johnny Wilson to an offensive line that has as much experience as they have with 8 deep, who they really trust, to, I mean, what Trey Benson had even mentioned, to Jaheim Bell. And we haven't yet seen all of that come together fully, I think, over a 60-minute game. And I mean, it's a credit to them that we're all sitting here saying, it feels like things don't entirely click, and that they scored 41 and they've scored 30 in every game. And who knows if that streak's going to stop anytime soon. But yeah, I mean, we should talk about too. I mean, beyond the players, Mike Norvell took accountability, and he's not one to shy away from that, but he kind of unprompted in his opening statement, his press conference talked about, I mean, he mentions, I think specifically he was talking about the goal line. And he said, coming off of that when they took over at the 5 after the Josh Farmer strip sack and adverse returned almost into the end zone, they came away empty. They went for it on 4th and didn't get it. Mike, I think, said that I think he kind of talked to the offense after, and he said, I told them I've got to be better. That I think he kind of owned his role in that. And I think Mike Norvell is a great play caller, but nobody's perfect. I think he has proven he's okay to own that when he kind of doesn't think he is.
Yeah, well, listen, that would be if I had one legitimate complaint from this game, that would be it. It was bad play calling, bad execution by the players, and bad decision making by Mike. You get the ball, it's a 2-score game. You kick the field goal to make it a 3-score game that early. There's no reason to do that. And the play calling was beyond. I mean, you got Trey. Is that the series they took Jaheim? They put Travis out into the.
No.
Or was that the next 4th and 1?
Yeah, they hit it twice in a row inside the Syracuse 30 and got no point. That was the second one.
They ran 4 flood routes.
And the other 4th and 1. You're going to take the most dynamic playmaker you have with the ball in his hands and make him not part of the play, not even an option. Because everybody knows Jaheim Bell's not throwing that damn football.
Yeah.
So those were my only 2. That series, I thought you got to pay the defense off, right? They got you the ball. Alex Maschermano and the defense got you the ball inside the 10-yard line, and you don't pay the defense off by putting 3 points on the board and making it a 3-score game. All right, that's all I'm going to say that's critical. Everything else was wonderful. It was beautiful. Keon Coleman with another catch of the year, play of the year. I did think the offensive line protected pretty well. But, Mark, I'm here to ask you about what you think of the offense and not talk about what I think about it.
So let me talk about play calling here a minute. Again, it's always easy to criticize play calling when you know the result. And as a play, I never called all the plays, but I had a hand in it. And a lot of times plays are called during the week. So you practice those plays during the week. And hey, when we get inside the 10, first and 10 on the 10, these are the calls, right? And so those plays are already called before you even get into the game. So, but as a coach, sometimes you're like, I don't want a great play call, but I got great players. Hopefully they can bail me out. And that what appears to be a great play call a lot of times is, oh, he bailed me out. You know what I mean? So, I mean, so I get it. Yeah. Would I have done it differently and you've done it differly? Yeah, for sure. But again, whatever. It is what it is.
Yeah. Well, listen, I now, particularly on the first fourth down situation, I said it in the press box, kick it.
Yeah.
So that's not revisionist history. No, I'm not sure that.
I said this during the instant reaction, right? In that point in the game, I'm like, okay, you know what? They're not going to score a bunch on us, if any more, right?
Right.
So at worst, they get the ball first and 10 on the 4-yard line. So I go for it on fourth down. If that was against a team if that was against North Carolina, I guarantee he kicks the ball.
Yeah.
But again, because Syracuse, whatever.
Well, listen, I guess my point would be you never know when the luck's going to run out. So that early in the game, when you need the points, why would you just you were only up by 2 scores? Why would you assume that you were going to beat Syracuse after the craziness we see week out and week in college football? He's an analytics guy. The analytics said kick it. The situation said kick it. Just to fill the game, they had not. The trade, in my opinion, trade dropped a touchdown pass. And then Morlock probably should have extended himself a little bit further. Now I'd have to go back and watch that play again, but I watched it about
that ball had a little heat on it.
Yeah. So anyway, listen, the analytics and their analytical people over there, they should have stuck to their chart that day. Again, their chart told them field goal. Chart tells you your chances to go up substantially if it's a 3-score game versus a 2-score game. But anyway,
Mike was going for a kill shot, kind of not a kill shot.
I know what you're saying,
but he is calling it to try and not have Jordan play in the second half.
That is why and deflate Syracuse and all of those things.
100%.
All right, so let's get off the negative because we're too critical sometimes.
Well, let me ask you this,
and I'm beating this dead horse to death.
Let me one more point. Let's go to the Oregon game. If you're Dan Lanning, do you go for it on fourth down there to end it?
It runs in the family, buddy. It runs in the family. He coached for Mike.
Yes.
Right?
I liked his call. I liked his call at the end of that game because here's the thing. You got the worst half of Washington's team on the field. You don't want to give their better half the ball back with a chance to win. Look what they did. They would have just taken more time off the clock and gone and scored if you punted and pinned them inside the 10.
I agree.
But they were just inside Washington territory, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Middle.
I don't know.
I just think they were going to go score, and then you have 30 seconds left instead of a minute 30. I mean, they should have gone to overtime. Kicker missed a gimme.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, or apparently decisions like that happen a lot at Oregon too. I mean, you got Mario and there's all Oregon. The familial relations are everywhere. Oregon landing to Mario, fourth down landing to Norvell.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's fascinating how small college football world is. All right, so there's a lot of positive things that happen on offense. Trey's running like Trey again. I don't know what it is about the second half of the damn football season, but he gets going about game 5 or 6, and he certainly looked the part. He had a couple of runs in that game where he did not get any help from the offensive line and pure determination. Then the other thing that probably stood out to me, and listen, I don't have the list of targets written down, but I believe it was 8 guys got multiple targets. They didn't have multiple catches, but we all worried about what was going to happen if Johnny Wilson was not available. He was not available. Now, I'll start with Curt and Bob on this because you guys at practice spent a lot of time watching the receivers. We saw Darian Williamson. I think he could be a difference maker for this offense healthy. We saw Jaheim get more chances. Morlock got more chances. But just your overall thoughts on, do you think the absence of Johnny short term could make this a more dangerous offense long term?
Yeah, I tried to take a stab at writing this on Friday because I feel like it gives you a shot to put a Kentron out there, use Jakai a bit more, mix it up with the tight ends. I think we saw, again, what Jaheim Bell can do as far as just turning a short pass into a long gain. A little bit bummed that I think Kentron had 58 plays, 1 target, no catch. You're active as a blocker, but you're not seeing that kind of pass catching production out of him yet. Florida State's got a ton of options. They have way too many options for the, let's say, 4 guys you're going to be able to put on the field with a Trey Benson or Lawrence Toafili. There's not going to be enough snaps to really go around. I think that's the real challenge with this group right now. Darion always looks good in practice when healthy. Okay, always looks good. We've seen flashes from Destin Hill. Hakeem has been praised pretty consistently. I think since about August on, that was a rough spring for Hakeem, but he's really turned it on, I think, from a conditioning standpoint.
And he looked real deal on that one pass he caught.
Yes, he did.
I was wondering what all the fuss was about, and I finally got to see it.
He got up to speed fast.
Yes, he did. I didn't think he was
that
that fast.
Keon said post-game yesterday, he's like, that's the fastest I've seen Hakeem run.
Hell, sometimes you run fast when you got big people chasing you.
And they can hit you. You're live.
Yes. So, but listen, I did not know he had those kind of wheels. I had not seen that in practice. I don't think. Now, obviously, they'd seen it off high school tape. But listen, you talk about Kentron. He had a great block on Jaheim's 39-yard. I don't know if that was a design RPO, but if Jordan was running out of room and Jaheim just happened to notice that Jordan was about to get sacked and turned around to catch the pass. It kind of looked designed to me, but I don't know that it was. But Kentron made a big block that helped get Jaheim 39 yards downfield. Now, I will say this. Some of the tight ends could improve their run blocking. That's one of my notes in Second Look Sunday, but that's, again, we're going to be positive. Mark, your thoughts on the wide receivers?
Yeah, I mean, we got a lot of talented guys, a lot of options. Jerry asked me on Thursday night, that Johnny was going to be, out. What is that going to do? I'm like, we got Keon, and Keon's just going to get more opportunities, and kind of held to be true. You give that guy some opportunities, he's going to make some plays. And I think that holds true for a lot of those guys. I think, look, Darion Williamson, I like that guy. You give him more opportunities, he's going to make plays too.
He's smooth.
I like to see, almost hit, we hit one seam route to Jaheim, missed the first one that was there. We hit the seam in that cover too. There's just a lot of opportunities out there. I heard Keon's press conference, and he's exactly right. You can double me if you want, but that means you're going to single up somebody else, and that's not real smart. And he's exactly right. There's just so many weapons.
What did Alex Atkins say last Monday, Bob? We were talking to him in our weekly practice. I think he called kind of what Florida State has one of those good offensive problems where you have, probably more guys worthy of reps and targets and all that than kind of plays you're going to have in a week to go around. But he did say, to his credit, I think they're pretty good in that building about kind of like making sure like everyone's in on each other and that like they're bought in on that. I think they, obviously being 6-0, being the 4th ranked team in the country, being in playoff position right now, it gets easier to sell. You can be a part of the future. You might have a smaller part now, but like, look what you get to be a part of.
Or you can hit the transfer portal, which we saw.
And that's an option come December too, for sure.
It's an option in mid-October.
I want to go back to my point about, look, if we have a 12-game schedule, right? You get in a championship game, that's 13. We get in the playoff, that's 14, 15. That's a lot of games. And we need every one of those guys. And you talk about load management through the whole course of the season. I think what Mike has smartly done is said, hey, guys, this is our ambition. If everything works out the way we hope it works out, I'm going to need every one of you guys. And everybody's going to have their chance to contribute, and everybody's going to have a chance. You know what I mean? And I think everybody's kind of bought into that idea that, no one person, one person's success is all of our success. And, and everybody kind of working towards that. Now, some players are inherently selfish. They want all the whatever, but you don't see evidence of that on this team. You just don't. And, I can honestly say to me, as a former player and guy that's, got some blood in the game, that makes me really proud. I love that attitude of, it's not about any one guy. It's about us as a team collectively. And Norvell has done an incredible job of fostering that and the staff of fostering that attitude to me.
I retweeted a clip today of on Hakeem's touchdown. You watch Hakeem's touchdown, and running right behind him, looking even more excited about the play that Hakeem is Ja'Kai Douglas. And Ja'Kai's been through a lot. Ja'Kai's absolutely, there are worlds where a guy like Ja'Kai is frustrated over, well, maybe that could have been my touchdown, and I've been here longer, and I've been through so much, and I deserve that. And there's none of that whatsoever. You just see the transparent happiness for his teammate. I mean, that is what Mike Gravel has built with that culture.
Well, listen, and I don't know if you noticed running down the sideline, there were about 8 to 10 guys that were not involved in the play. They were on the sideline, and the analysts had to chase them down and send them back to the bench before they got a penalty. I mean, so you're right. I mean, those guys definitely have good feelings toward Hakeem, which when you're a 5-star coming in to take people's playing time away is not always the case. I mean, we live in a new era of college football where not only taking playing time off the table, you're taking money off the table. So it's just that locker room chemistry is just a little bit different, probably than ever has been before. But yeah, certainly
it's uncommon.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, you usually you see the offensive guys run down for an offensive guy, and the defensive guys because you spend so much time, particularly in college and pro football, with your side of the ball. Sometimes there is not a there's not as much connective tissue between the two sides of the ball. And so that was kind of fun to see because you get a true feeling for how not only they feel about that particular kid and how hard he worked and how far he's come, but also how they feel about each other as a team. And I think you're right. We talked about the team chemistry last year. I thought that was a particularly tight team last year. And we'll see what this one turns out to be. But yeah, that was fun to see. All right, so let's talk about somebody that I don't want to talk about a lot, just because I have a bet that he was going to punt less than 30 times this season. But he's having a Ray Guy type year, guys. Alex Mastromano. I'm going to go back. Curt and I have been kind of talking about it on the Osceola text thread, but I want to go back and see how many times he's created a long field for the opposing offense, turned into a short field in points for the FSU offense this year. I actually want to go back to last year too. But, we know he got 10 points. He helped the defense with long field situations against Syracuse, which led to 10 points either directly or indirectly. Now, he punted, pinned them he pinned him at the 19, turned the ball over the next play. I give him partial credit for that. That would led to 3 points, and there was another one where he pinned them inside the 20, and FSU got the ball back and scored. So I give him 10. But listen, he's fun to watch kick. He kicks the hell out of the ball. Both those punters yesterday actually looked pretty good. I mean, they had some bombs going on, but Alex Mastromano is quietly, and Mike really, I need him to go for it more on fourth down, even when it doesn't make sense to do so. 4th and 15 is a good time to surprise people with it. I need Alex Mastromano to play less, but he's certainly been fun to watch, guys.
He's averaging 47.6 per punt. I think the school record is 47 by Sean Powell, about 12 years ago. So it just kind of puts in perspective what he's doing, how far he's come, again, for a guy who never really played this sport. Again, coming from Australia, I think it's a pretty wild story. I want to say JP mentioned last week, too, that they lead the league in net punting as far as how they've got punt coverage. So, again, credit to that punt coverage unit. I want to say it's only like 4 or 6 returns by an opposing unit the whole year, which is pretty damn impressive.
So, Bob, that's also due to Alex because of that rugby kick, right?
Yeah.
So he's taken 3-4 steps rolling out before he even kicks the ball, which gives those guys that much more time to get down the field. This one's returnable when you do that, So the technique kind of plays into that too, and so credit to Alex for that too.
Yeah. So I have the numbers here. PFF's got like some in depth. Yeah, he's averaging 47.6. 10 of his 23 have been inside the 20. Only 5 have been returned. So 21.7% have been returned. And his net's 44.4. So he's like on average, what, 3 a return, but that's
Yeah.
on only 5 returns. Like, I mean, he's become, I mean, he is 7th nationally in yards per punt. Syracuse's guy, Pat, is actually 9th. So you're right. Those are two guys who boom it. But
well, I think maybe we should start a Ray Guy campaign for Alex Mastromano.
He's 5th nationally.
I think we got to get FSU social media team to start doing some Ray Guy type stuff for Alex.
What about Fitzy? Huh?
He's perfect right now for the season, right?
Perfect. Shout out!
I should not have said that out loud.
I have said it out loud. I wrote a story,
Okay.
Clemson Week. I wrote a story about the kicking problems or the kicking difference, and I was just worried all week that Fitz was going to miss a big kick and I was going to look like a fool. But the reverse happened. But hey, I mean, as much time as they spend on special teams, they're playing their role. They are playing their role.
Yeah. Well, so it's been fun to watch them because they have been weapons for Florida State this year. They probably were last year, but they certainly have come through this year. All right, so guys, it's a 41-3 game. We've talked a lot about it. We've talked about what looked good, what looked bad. We tried to be critical just to be critical. I did anyway. Anyway, so this kind of came up organically in our post game between me, Mark, and JP. JP brought it up, and I want to get Curt and Bob's. Listen, I think there's a lot of reasons the answer is no. But do you guys think Jordan Travis is still a legitimate Heisman candidate?
Go ahead, Curt.
So a lot would have to go right, I think, for him to win the Heisman at this point. That being said, I think it's entirely possible if Florida State's that's the week after. If they're 13-0, and if he's put up, I mean, the numbers he's not putting up like gaudy numbers. He's averaging about 250 passing yards a game. He's not running the ball a ton. I mean, that has scaled back tremendously from kind of how it was early in his career. He's not putting up Heisman numbers, but I just think there's a world. I think there's a world where he gets the Stetson Bennett invite like last year of like you are the quarterback on one of the best teams in the country, a team that's about to go be in the playoff, and you put up pretty good numbers. I think that's possible, but I'm not going to say it can't happen, but a lot would have to go his way, and a lot would have to go against, I think, a number of guys like Michael Penix, like even Bo Nix, I mean, heck, Keon Coleman's not really – it's a quarterback award. Keon Coleman's not going to get there, but you can make the case for Keon above Jordan right now in terms of importance. So.
He might get to 1,000 yards receiving, though. Lord,
he might.
We'd love to see that.
He might be would it be the first Florida State guy to bring home the Blitnikoff? He's in that conversation.
Yeah, he definitely needs to be in that conversation. But if I'm going to have to watch Alex punt 31 or more times this year, I really need to see Keon go for 1,000 yards receiving. But listen, just to add some context to how this conversation came up, the conversation was, is Jordan pressing? Is the fact that he's a Heisman candidate a part of that? Now, listen, I think what hurts him right now with the Heisman thing is they only got one ranked team left on their schedule as of today. Duke is the only team Duke is the only team. Let me say that again. Duke is the only team left on Florida State's schedule outside the ACC championship game, whoever that opponent would be, which right now definitively looks like North Carolina or Duke. But I think that hurts his chances a lot.
But yes, to the ranked matchups, but how many of the rest of their games are going to be on ABC? They're on ABC again next weekend. They'll be their 6th time in 7 games. I think that matters more than the ranked matchups. Are you on a channel that is going to be prominently featured? And he'd have to put up gaudy numbers, but I'm not going to say it can't happen. I would just label it as unlikely, and we'll see if he gets an invite, which would still, in its own right, be an impressive honor if he gets an invite.
Well, I guess my argument would be that, all right, you watch Penix, he's going to play against about 7 ranked teams over the course of his schedule this year. If he keeps on doing what he's doing, when they start weighing all this out, the fact that, all right, so we played LSU, they were ranked. Clemson was unranked. They're still unranked. So I think that's kind of where we ended up going with the conversation last night. Was it doesn't really have anything to do with that he's pressing. It has more to do with he's not had to carry the load as much this year. I think his numbers are down because of that. And I think we all agree his best football is still in front of him.
I don't think he's pressing. I'll let you go. Sorry, I don't think he's pressing. I think he's been dealing with that shoulder, and then he had a hand happen Saturday. I think he's been banged up.
Yeah. Here's the deal. Jordan, is he pressing? I don't know if he's pressing. I will say, I think that early in games we go for the kill shot early. So he's looking deep before he's looking short, and by the time he gets back to the short read, those windows are tighter or closer, or they're through the window, whatever. All right, that's and evidence of that is once we started hitting a couple slants and then we hit the slant and go, it's there, right? So let the game come to you. That's one thing. The other thing is this. I'll go back to Charlie's Heisman. I remember when we were playing Virginia, who they were okay, but you remember that run Charlie had against Virginia where he got about 10 guys and then left into the end zone. And I remember me and Mark looking at each other, Mark Ritt looking at each other, going, "Just give him the Heisman now." That was his Heisman moment. Heisman is about moments and about those kinds of plays. Yeah. Jordan hasn't had to have those kinds of plays, right?
Yep.
We haven't seen a moment like against Florida where Jordan dodged 5 guys and when he had a couple nice runs against LSU, but maybe even against Clemson he might have had a couple. But he just hasn't had to use that part of his game, and he's been overly protecting himself, right? Sliding early, doing those kinds of things. So that's what makes Jordan is those kinds of plays. And you know what? And I said at the beginning of the year, if we go undefeated, he'll be invited, whether he wins it or not. That again, those are some of the factors that are not going to be out of our control. And part of that is Penix is having a great year. If he stays healthy, I think he's probably the leader in the clubhouse right now. I think Caleb Williams is probably out.
Bo Nix is probably still in it, depending on what happens at Washington.
Greg May is definitely in it.
So Brock Bowers could be the first tight end to win it.
Hey.
Yeah. So
I'm joking. He's Brock Bowers. That was nice.
Pat, you're right. If we win, and maybe it was you, Curt, that said it. If we win and we're undefeated going into championship week or whatever, whenever the votes are due, he'll be invited.
Yeah.
I mean, just because if you're 12-0, you beat.
They need Miami to be ranked when Miami comes to town. They need Florida to keep on doing what it's doing and beat. And listen, and they need all these things for the college football playoff argument too, depending on how things play out in the year. Which that's a show in and of itself that we need to have one day. Have a midseason college football. What is Florida State's path? What has to happen in the Pac-12, Big Ten, SEC, so forth and so on.
I tell you the easiest way: don't lose.
Well, that is true.
Don't open the door.
But here's what's crazy, Curt, and Mark and JP and I both watch a lot of national shows. There's some guys that will have what I would say strong football opinions and strong football IQs that are so. Bobby Carpenter, who appears on the McAfee show, does a top 5 every week. I don't think that Florida State's been in it the last 3 weeks. Now he's not on the college football playoff committee, but I think it's safe to say that people outside the ACC, SEC footprint don't pay as much attention to the teams down here. Therefore, and you don't have. So I think there is some nuance to the fact that it might take more than a perfect season, depending on what happens other places.
I think a lot of that's going to sort itself out because Michigan and Penn State still have to play each other. Georgia's going to have to play Alabama.
Every year this discussion happens about this time of year, and it always works.
I get the conversation about but what if there are undefeated teams in every conference? When's the last time that happened? It's kind of like we're halfway through, and frankly, the tougher half is left. So,
yeah. Listen, I think it's good. Listen, I think it's fascinating. I think it's why we love college football because we're sitting here in week 7 trying to figure out if there's what's the best path, what's the worst path they could have. I mean, what's the most difficult path they could have. But this is another conversation that was struck up talking to people last night. It's great water cooler conversation. It's great 41-3 is the result conversation is really what it's all about. All right, so we'll come back to that. And I do think we need to do a show on the college football playoff and.
The first rankings. That next week, this week?
31st.
So 2 weeks. 2 weeks from Tuesday.
All right. So listen,
be around there.
Yeah. So we should probably do. I took it on Takeaway Tuesday. I had Florida State in last week. We'll see if I keep them in this week on Takeaway Tuesday. All right. So early thoughts on Duke. They utterly dominated NC State last night. Threw the ball 12 times, completed it 4. Riley Leonard did warm up. He did go through. Now, there's no video of him doing anything but throwing the ball. Aaron Rodgers was in New York today throwing the ball with an Achilles tendon. Aaron Rodgers did not have a fully torn Achilles tendon. There's no way that's possible unless hibiscus or whatever the hell drug he is that he intakes on a random basis. It's kind of like PCP and you don't feel any pain. That's the only thing I could think
cannabis.
No, it's not cannabis.
He's probably on cannabis.
Oh no, he may be on cannabis, but no, it's ayahuasca or something.
Ayahuasca. Oh gosh,
yeah, that's his drug of choice. But anyway, so I don't think Riley Leonard's on ayahuasca or anything else. I think he's probably just on a good rehab program. But
yeah,
all right. So early thoughts on Duke. Who would have thought that this was going to be one of the games of the year? In the ACC, it's bigger than the Clemson game this year. It's bigger than the Miami game this year. And from Florida State's perspective, it might be bigger than the Florida game this year. It is because it's ACC game, right? It's a conference game. All right, so early thoughts, Mark. I don't know if you got to see any of the game last night.
Yeah, I did.
Just before I expound or add my 2 cents, what do you think about Duke with or without Riley Leonard?
Yeah, well, so I'm sitting there watching that game last night. I watched the first half. And I'm thinking to myself, all right, this is a team that's very confident. They're very well coached. They are very, very smart team. Obviously, I guess they're Duke, so they are smart, right? And they're not going to beat themselves. Okay. Now, is our roster better than their roster? Yeah, but I don't know that the difference is big enough to overcome a team that is patient, sound, understands who they are. And can tackle, can cover, can have guys in the right spots all the time. I think defensively, I was pretty impressed, honestly. And I'm like, okay, this team is confident. Offensively without Riley Leonard, NC State they're their own worst enemy at times. They just fly around and leave. They're so unsound. Their guys are flying wide open and they do crazy stuff. So, but that's my point. Duke took advantage of that stuff, right? And we're going to have to play really disciplined. We're going to have to be patient. We're going to have to, we're going to have to take some body blows, and we're going to have to give some too. I think this is a game that, all phases are going to have to be, we're going to have to play our best game to be convincing, and to do it the way we should win. But I'm definitely not taking it for granted. I think it's going to be a close game.
Guys, Curt, Bob?
So the line opened, I think, I had put it up on the website. The line opened to like FSU minus 13. I think I saw it somewhere else already at like minus 15.5. That to me says Riley Leonard's not playing. And frankly, I'm not sure he is playing because the truth is, even 3 weeks removed from a high ankle sprain, even if he could be back there, he's not going to be mobile. And that takes away a major part of his game. He is a dual threat guy who can hurt you with his legs. He hurt Clemson with his legs. He hurt Notre Dame with his legs in that game. They almost won before he got hurt. Their quarterback last night, I know he's a pretty athletic guy. He completed 4 passes. That's all they needed to beat NC State. He was, I think, 4-12. So that's he'll need obviously to do more, I would say, to beat Florida State. But I wonder, part of me wonders if the 30-point scoring streak is threatened in this game. I think Duke's defense might be that good unless some turnover luck breaks your way. Because I think, they're allowing 11 points a game or something like that. They've been really effective against pretty much everyone that they've had out there. And like a lot of what Mark said, they are not going to beat themselves. Elko's a heck of a coach. I wouldn't be surprised if they're eyeing him as Jimbo's replacement.
Oh, Lord. Whoa, wow. Elko to Texas A&M.
He was his DC there.
What about Neon Dion and the losing Colorado Buffaloes? He's going to go everywhere.
He's already old news. He's already old news.
There's 76 million reasons why that probably won't happen.
By the way, Jimbo is 10-14 the last 2.5 years against Power 5 teams, 7-1 against everybody else. Aggienomics are not working out for Texas A&M.
What's the price of oil right
inches
now?
Away.
What's the price of oil? That determines a lot of that.
Well, it's probably only going to get higher. So he's probably got some security in that because they're only going to make more money down there in College Station. But I did not. I just happened to go. I listened to his interview, and he was kind of. Now Carter said that he looked despondent or down. I didn't think that at all. He was kind of more matter of fact, and he said the same. We got to coach better. We got to do technique. I mean, same old thing Jimbo always says.
He said game of inches. I know that.
Oh, did he say game?
I saw that.
I didn't make.
He called it a game of inches.
Well, shit. I'm gonna tell you
Which
what.
every fan wants to hear when his 10 of 14 in his last 24.
10 of 14 against Power 5 conference teams.
Felt bad for Max. Whew.
Yeah, well, he was getting the crap beat out of him most of the night. There's no doubt about that. But yeah, so anyway, then listen, the games were incredible this weekend. I went to bed on Friday night because we had an early start on Saturday morning. 29-0, feeling really confident about Dion and his boys.
I did too.
And then, of course, Shadir starts selling merchandise at halftime out of the locker room, which is just a crazy story. And what have I told everybody about this? What's going on up there? It's more about what's going on off the field than it's on the field, and that is what will ultimately cost that program. I mean, listen. And here's the thing. I'm like, it's not time for that tangent. Anyway, the damn end of the game, Houston, West Virginia, was phenomenal. That game, did y'all watch that game?
Yeah, yes.
And there's 6 degrees of separation.
I was following that game, but I was watching my Braves tragically. I made the wrong choice, clearly.
All right, can we have a moment of silence for the Braves, because we're all Braves fans, and we still don't get over the disappointment that we've used to since 1992 or whatever it was.
Can I pull up?
Remind me what happened in West Virginia. I know I saw it, but I can't remember.
All right, so West Virginia takes the lead.
Right.
On what would have been a last-second touchdown, like 20 seconds left in the ball game. Garrett Green, who is their quarterback and a Tallahassee native, just to bring it full circle, decides he's going to talk some smack after the touchdown.
That was it.
Well, all right, so they kick off from the 20. So they get the ball, Houston does, about their own 40. And on the last play of the game, which is run from, I believe, the 50-yard line, 48-yard line, excuse me, the quarterback rolls out, throws a bomb down to a group of people.
Yeah. The
guy could only throw the ball 49 yards, Mark. The penalty definitely cost West Virginia the game. And listen, it was going to cost old Holgerson the game if they hadn't won, because he left West Virginia to go to Houston. He's not had a great time at Houston. But anyway, That game was fascinating.
Yeah, I mean,
that game was fascinating.
Last night late, I didn't stay up for it. I saw it this morning. You see the Boise Colorado State ending?
Yes.
They're up 30-10 with 6 minutes left, and they lose 31-30 on a Hail Mary.
Hey, the Florida game was crazy.
Yeah.
And listen, Shane Beamer is falling apart in his post game. Listen,
that was a tough video.
He didn't blame the chain gang this time, but he blamed every player on his team, every coach on his team. The only guy that Shane Beamer did not blame was himself. That guy, listen, and Mark, you know it. That is a freaking pressure cooker in Columbia. I mean, the only thing they know in Columbia, South Carolina is damn football. And that's all they talk about. And listen, I'm telling you what, having spent 3 years there and you spent 5, you can tell it's getting to him. Yeah. And listen, and this is a program, and I think Shane needs to keep this in perspective. If he goes 7-5 almost every year, he's going to keep his job. But they wilted under the pressure. I mean, that game was fascinating. Listen, I was pulling this. It was one of the few years I'm pulling for Florida because of Florida State's schedule and the fact that we need Florida to be ranked when we go to Gainesville. But that was a nutty ending too.
I would say cover Ricky Pearsall. I mean, I'm not stupid. But,
and by the way, Florida's defensive line is the softest defensive line I've ever seen in my life.
Away. In Gainesville, they're pretty good.
Yeah, their defense.
Why is that? Why is a team so dramatically different home and road? I mean, is there any explanation?
I don't know if they're dramatically different. Frankly, you know who it reminds me of? Willie Taggart. They were a much better team at home than they were on the road. They were abysmal on the road under Willie.
Did you just call Billy Taggart Willie Taggart?
No, I said Willie Taggart. I mean, you could.
No, I'm just saying.
They call him Hillbilly Willie on Twitter.
That was the joke after the first loss of the season. He was there. He was Billy Taggart. See,
Billy Willie.
I've heard nothing but good things about Billy, so it's hard for me to have a lot of hate for him, other than the fact that he coaches at Florida. So anyway, and plus, listen, if you're a Florida State fan, as crazy as this sounds, you need to cheer for Florida. They need to be ranked when we go play them. That's I'm telling you, it's going to help Florida State if they are.
Bubble bath on the road.
They're not going to be. That's pretty good. I laughed at that. Thank you, M. Dutchie.
What happened? What I
He said, look at the comment. Pat, they're not going to be ranked. I know they're 5-2 now, and they're probably going to get to that 6th win what Arkansas in a few weeks. But other than that, they're at LSU. They got Georgia. They're at Mizzou. Like, they're probably going to be 6-5.
Oh, they'll beat Missouri. LSU can't stop.
LSU stopped Auburn.
Hell, it's Hugh Freeze, and there's no telling what he had going on. I mean, he's probably delivering bags of recruits in the stand. I mean, he got all kind of things going on. He's got 2 cell phones in his pocket. I mean, what the hell is he? He's coaching about as much as Dion does. But anyway, yeah. Listen, I think they're going to be ranked. I think they're going to beat Missouri at least. Listen, what if Brock Bowers doesn't play against Florida in 2 weeks? You're without your best player, your quarterback. Sorry.
No.
I can't see it. I'm not going to say it can't happen, but I also Mizzou's 6-1. Mizzou went on the road and handily beat Kentucky yesterday. I'm not sure what about them that make you think they're going to go win on the road there. And maybe the snow. I think that's like the week before FSU. Might be snowing in Columbia.
Well, you're right, and maybe I'm just wishful thinking because college football playoff would be great. This be a fun trip to the Rose Bowl for some of us, 1 of us, 3 of us, 4 of us, whoever. But anyway, I'm being selfish. I'm wishful thinking. But yeah, so anyway, great college football weekend. Great win for Florida State. We've gone way over the allotted time I set for us when we started this thing, but that is the nature of talking football. I think we'd stay on here for another hour if we could, which we can, but we're not. We've all got to get some sleep at some point. It's been a long, 5:30 wake-up call on Saturday morning, long day yesterday. But Mark tries to leave us about every 5.5 minutes on this thing.
It's an internet thing, I think.
You disappear and come back. But all right, so if you're not an Osceola subscriber, please go to theosceola.com or floridastate.rivals.com. Curt's got an article out on the offense, and the sum is not the equal of its part. Curt, you had a catchy title. What was the title of the story again?
Isn't it what this FSU offense's whole isn't yet better than the sum of its parts?
Yep. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Bob's got his game notes, takeaways from yesterday. Mark and I have first impressions from last night right after the game with JP. We're in the middle of our second look Sunday on our premium our Osceola Village message board. Curt's in there. Mark's getting ready, I think, to start watching some more. I've got through the third quarter. Please share your thoughts on that with us at theosceola.com or floridastate.rivals.com. Please subscribe to our Osceola YouTube channel if you're watching the show. If you're a subscriber to the Osceola YouTube channel but not the Osceola, please subscribe to the Osceola. We got a report on our Tavius Jones, the Blountstown high school commit that's committed to Miami. He was on campus this past weekend. I'm going to have a new offer story coming out here shortly. They offered a 2025 prospect earlier today. We'll have that coming out. And then we're going to have some news from Jershawn Newton, a defensive back, 4-star guy out of Clearwater. We'll have some information on him. But go to theosceola.com, floridastate.rivals.com, and the Osceola YouTube page. Guys, I know we're all ready to get ready for this Duke game. We got a busy week. We'll be back here throughout the week with updates, and obviously go to the website and check us out. But appreciate everybody joining us. Appreciate Bob, Curt, and Mark taking the time out to do this. And we will see you next week. Mark, you're always going to sign us off.
Go Noles. Scalp them.
Hey, by the way, one time what I want you to do is grab your spear that's just up on your wall.
Yeah.
And I want you to, see it. I want you to plant the spear on the show.
No, I'm gonna do that on Florida week.
I think we should start doing it every week. You know, they got these little bags that they have to use on the turf fields where they can't plant it in the ground like Osceola did at the Orlando Bowl.
Yeah, is that the post-win tradition on first impressions?
I think that Jerry's got that in the budget. We can get you a artificial spear receptor.
Dude, I will do it out in the yard. I will light it on fire, and I'll ride my golden retriever out.
While you're cooking tomahawk steaks.
Exactly. I'll carry a tomahawk steak and my spear.
That'd be awesome. All right. We're going to let everybody go back to NFL football, and we'll see you later in the week. Mark, try it again. Let's see if we get off the – there we go.
Scalp them.